What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex here, and you're watching the Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. I'm about to review my second most highly anticipated film of 2020. The first one was Tenet. Already watched it, already reviewed it. This film I'm about to review is Wonder Woman 1984. And I was really highly anticipating this film, really excited about it, simply because I really loved the 2017 Wonder Woman film directed by Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins, the director, is back, and I got really pumped for this film because this is another installment in the DC Extended Universe. Okay, it's not called that anymore. It's the Worlds of DC. And what that really means is that these are a lot of standalone stories, all right? They're not necessarily connected with each other, even though the fans, like they say they are, but it doesn't really matter to me. At the end of the day, I just want to watch a good movie. I don't care how they're connected, right? Anyways, I originally wanted to watch this film in IMAX on the big screen, but because of COVID-19, a lot of theaters across the world were shut down. But it had a simultaneous on-demand digital release, so that's how I ended up watching it. You can catch it on HBO Max or wherever it was distributed digitally. So I checked it out streaming. I ended up watching it twice because when you rent it, you actually are allowed to watch it as many times as you want within 48 hours. So I checked it out twice. So I'm reviewing it now after 2 viewings. Okay. And I got a lot to say about this film. Okay, I'm reviewing this on December 31st, 2020. This film got released on Christmas Day. So a good, 6 days have passed. And a lot of people have been talking a lot of stuff about this film. I'm sure you've already seen the really polarizing reviews. And I will give you my absolute honest opinion after watching it the second time. And I'll first say that this film did not meet my expectations because I was expecting something better than the first one. Now, that's just what I feel. A lot of people say that this is better than the first one. A lot of hardcore DC fans say that this is better than the first one. I still think the first one is great. My only issues with the first one, and this is my only issue with the first one, is that I feel that the villain of Ares is kind of weak. All right, there wasn't much build up to him. But I love the rest of the film. As for this film, it didn't quite meet my expectations in the sense that I expected the film to improve where the first film lacked. That was my expectation for it. I was hoping that it would give us the same quality as the first one and then improve upon the villain aspect of the film. It didn't do that. In fact, it didn't even do that at all. It's not that it didn't try, it wanted to do something different. My expectations for this film were completely different from what it gave us. Now, does that mean that this film is bad? I am not going to say that this film is bad because I don't actually think this film is bad at all. I actually think it's a good film, but it's not my cup of tea. And what I read, what Patty Jenkins was going for is that she was actually inspired and wanted to emulate what Richard Donner did with Superman 1. And setting it in the 80s, it really captured the times. And during that times, that was the Cold War era, okay? And, recovering from the Vietnam War, okay? Stuff like that. So a lot of these elements and that energy is in this film, just like how it is in Superman. So by doing that, she successfully achieved what she wanted to do. So in that sense, I think it's a good film in that sense because she achieved what she was trying to do, and she did that 100%. Because had this film been released in the 80s, this film would have been an amazing film, an extraordinary film. But it's 2020 now, and I think that after watching films like films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have a certain expectations in our comic book movies, okay? And I fell in that realm. I guess I fell in that hole where I felt that not every film had to feel like Avengers Endgame, but at least it shared the same. It had a bit of the same quality in that sense. And like, if I had to refer to any film from the DC universe, I would say Aquaman. I thought it would be a little bit more in the same, not necessarily tone, but I guess the same style as Aquaman, where you would have a more action. Now this is a very, very story-driven film. Okay, definitely not visually driven. You know how a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe films are very visually driven, combined with a lot of great stories and great characters. They're able to combine it really, really well. This is simply more story driven because you want to know what happens next. You want to know how all this ties together. They're out there to seek a MacGuffin. So that plot device is what drives its story. Okay, not so much. I wouldn't say the characters are lacking, but we got more character development than the first one simply because, well, it's an origin story. There's definitely going to be character development. This one is more about the story. I wouldn't say it's so much about the characters because I would have loved more out of the characters. Okay, but you don't get that 100%. This is more like Diana Prince is already in society and she's already living out her life, and these are just her. This is just another one of her tales, another one of her adventures. So we really don't really need to see that much more development. Although there is some development in this film, I don't think it's that. I don't think it is that exciting or that monumental. I think really this is all about the story and the trying to obtain that MacGuffin. Right, it's this plot device. Okay, so yeah, that's how this film is so much different than the first one. Okay, it's a little bit cheesy, but that's not intentionally because it's there to reflect the times. I actually did not mind that at all. Okay, I think my biggest problems with this film is, I'm going to start with where it can improve and what I thought didn't work for me, is that the pacing. It's just too long. It's 2.5 hours long, and the action sequences are very underwhelming. They're underwhelming because they lack the oomph that the first one had. Remember when Diana Prince was fighting Germans in the trenches in the first film? Like, it lacked that. We don't get to see any of that whatsoever. We see her taking out goons, jewel thieves, artifact thieves in this case, in a very tame fashion, and it's meant to be like that. It's just like how Superman would thwart a bank robbery, and then it's done in a very family-friendly way, which I totally don't mind. But it's you can really feel there's a big difference from the action in the first one compared to this one. It is very, very tame. Next is the antagonist element is not. It's not a strong villain. It's a concept. It's an idea. The antagonist element is an idea. It's not a person. It's not a supervillain. Okay, it's an idea. So I think a lot of people will have a problem with that. It's not that I have a problem with that. It's just not big enough. Okay, it's just not. It doesn't work as much. All right, it works for the story, but for me, I just feel like that's a little bit weak. Okay. Now, there is another antagonist element in this film, and that is Kristen Wiig's character. She plays Barbara Minerva, who ends up becoming Cheetah. And I would have liked it if she was just the main antagonist, not Pedro Pascal's, I forgot what his character's name is, Maxwell Lord? Yeah, that's right, Maxwell Lord. Like, I actually liked his performance, but I think that he should have been the supporting character. I think Barbara Minerva's Cheetah should have been the main antagonist element. I think this film should have been about a friendship between the two. Like a heartbreaking friendship between the two. I think there was a missed opportunity there where Pedro Pascal was the catalyst for Cheetah, for Barbara Minerva becoming who she is and what she ended up becoming. But it should have been about the friendship, the dying friendship between two characters. That would have had more emotional impact. That's where I felt that they could have done a lot better. Okay. Action sequences were underwhelming. some of the CG looked kind of off. It just felt weird to me. It didn't look like, it didn't have that visceral and realism to it. Um, yeah, and you know, I'm gonna say what I mentioned to my friends, that it felt like a Care Bears movie. It felt like a Care Bears movie. It felt like it's so tame that like it's trying so hard to be unoffensive and wholesome that it felt like a Care Bears movie. Like we're gonna fix everything with love. Don't worry, you're having a bad day. We're gonna fix everything by being really good to each other. Okay, we're gonna care about each other. We're gonna do the right thing. Do what's right. That's what it felt like. Okay, I'm gonna move on to talking about things that I liked about the film. Hans Zimmer's score was great. Still not one of his best scores, but still a good score nonetheless that worked for this film. That was great. Okay. Um, I did really like the opening sequence, the Themyscira scene. That was great. I really liked it. Okay. I liked the scenes with Cheetah. I really did. In fact, I liked Barbara Minerva, the character of Barbara Minerva. Okay, it's obviously a I don't want to say rip off, but it's kind of like a copycat, you know, no pun intended, of Selina Kyle in Batman Returns. Okay, it's like literally the exact same concept as Selina Kyle in Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton. It works a lot better in Batman Returns. I still liked her development, although it's quite swift. With such a long movie, they could have made it where her development was more emotional, more character driven in the sense that it involved a lot of chemistry between her and Diana Prince. I would have liked more of that. It's kind of like she just becomes her like quickly. You see the physical change, you know, the way she acts and the way she is and the way she looks, but it's not really an emotional change, like one that you really see where she's conflicted. I think that would have worked a lot more. And like I said before, I would have liked it a lot more had this more been about Kristen Wiig's character as the main antagonist element, as opposed to Pedro Pascal. One more thing that I want to add, I absolutely felt that it was the wrong direction to bring Steve Trevor back. Okay, I don't think that Steve Trevor should have been in this film at all. They should have took him out, squashed that idea, and made this film 100% about the friendship between Diana Prince and Barbara Minerva. That would have been so much better, and seeing their friendship come apart and having to see them fight each other. And that would have been more emotional, more heartbreaking, and just, I think that it would made for some really great fight sequences. All right, this whole Steve Trevor stuff, you pull that out, you would have gotten rid of a half hour of like unnecessary stuff. Believe me, it would have been a totally different film, and there would have been you know, you wouldn't have all those pacing problems. You know, this film goes on for 80 minutes without any action. Okay, minus the opening action sequences, but between the opening action sequences to the next one, that's a whole 80 minutes. All right, I was watching, so I was timing this, and I was like, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. It's already more than halfway through, and it's already past the hour mark, and nothing has happened in terms of like any Wonder Woman. It's all Diana Prince and detective work with her and Steve Trevor. You know, like it wasn't the right direction for me. Anyways, I see what Patty Jenkins was trying to go for. Like I said, had this film come out in the 80s, it would have been a really, really great film. Extraordinary, in fact. But now we're in 2020. We've seen what DC can offer. We've seen what can make up a really good a superhero film in the DC universe. This one kind of went backwards. Okay. Like I said, I don't think this is a bad film. It just didn't meet my expectations. I'm gonna give it a, and I'm gonna be completely generous here because I know a lot of people who are destroying this film. But my honest feelings, I'm gonna give it a 5.5 out of 10. Now, some people will say that that's high, that didn't like the film. I think it's very polarizing. You either hated this film or you really loved it and thought it was the best thing ever, okay? Like, that's the way I see it. If you go onto, like, film Twitter, you will see that they either thought it was terrible or they thought it was really, really, like, the best thing ever. I'm kind of in the middle. In fact, I'm in the middle because I acknowledge that it is a good film, because it is. It is a good film. But it didn't meet my expectations. I had completely different expectations. But knowing what they were trying to go for, knowing that they were trying to go for a very specific tone, and knowing what they're trying to achieve, and the whole these plot elements, if you really understand that, it is a good movie. It is a good movie. It's just not as entertaining when you compare it to the first one. Okay. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this review. 5.5 out of 10. I like Shazam more, and that's a wholesome movie. It's a fun film. This one's kind of slow. It's really, really slow. There's a lot of development in this film. Anyways, that's all I got to say in this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. 5.5 out of 10. And I will see you next time. Peace.